2001, New York City. It's a beautiful sunny day, and I'm in a terrible mood. I go to the local polling station to vote in the primary elections, and the election worker messes up my ballot, and he says, "Here, you have to fill out this paper ballot." Fat chance that's going to be counted. And then I go to the dry cleaners. "Sorry, Mr. Perlov, your shirts aren't ready yet." Oh, great. I get on the subway and I start thinking about my job and work. And I walk down to the B train at the corner and get on the subway. And I think about a conversation I had a few years back that really saved my life. I had been working in ad agencies for about 10 years and was getting really burned out. And an old boss of mine called me and said, "Hey, George, there's an opening at the Ad Council for Director of Research. Are you interested?" "Sure." He said, "I know the Chief Operating Officer there. I'll introduce you." Great. The Ad Council, if you're not familiar with them, are the good guys of advertising. They're the ones that make public service announcements or PSAs. Maybe you know Smokey Bear, or Friends Don't Let Friends Drive Drunk, or A Mind is a Terrible Thing to Waste, or Rosie the Riveter, the muscled woman in World War II who got women to go back to take those factory jobs. In any case, they're a great organization. They work with the best ad agencies, the media companies all support them. And even though I never led a research team before, and I don't have that much research experience, they hire me. And over the first few years, it's a learning curve for me. It's a lot to learn. There's a lot of processes, procedures, approvals, and the board has to approve a campaign. Then we do research with the target audience to understand their feelings and beliefs about it. Then we create a strategy that has to get approved. We create the advertising. Then we test the advertising. We want to make sure that people understand it, that they are inspired to do something because of it, and that we're not offending anyone, God forbid. And then, of course, we do a benchmark study, so we know what the target audience knowledge, attitudes, and behaviors are. Then we get ready to release the ads, we do press releases, and then we do a follow-up study after that. The whole process can take 6 months, 9 months, a year. It's a long, long time. But I've got to say, after all these crazy years in the ad business, I'm thinking, this is okay. I can sort of get used to it. The pay is pretty good, the people are nice, it's interesting work. In some ways, it's really the best job I've ever had. Anyway, I get off the subway at 40th Street and I'm walking down across towards Madison where our office is. And at 5th Avenue, I look down and I see the skyscraper's on fire. And it's not any skyscraper, it's the World Trade Center. And I'm thinking, what's going on here? I get to the office, and Roseanne, who's one of the new hires with a thick New York accent, says, "A plane hit the World Trade Center." What? I come into the conference room, and everyone's watching the TV, and we see the other plane hit the other tower. We watch the two towers collapse, and people are just, they're crying. You can only say, "Oh my God," and just jaws are dropped. A few minutes later, a guy covered in white dust comes running in the room. It's Ken, Rebecca's husband, who works downtown near the trade towers. He runs up to Rebecca and holds her like he hasn't seen her in 20 years. By about noon or so, when we think it's safe to leave, I walk uptown back to the Upper West Side with my colleagues Patty and Heidi. Heidi keeps cursing her cell phone because she can't get through to her kids' school. Patty's momentary response is, "Why didn't they hit Disneyland? Disneyland's a lot worse than New York." I go home and I get to my small apartment and I decide to call my boyfriend. And my boyfriend at the time is a guy I've been dating about a year. I'll call him Mike. And he's a nice guy. He brings a lot of stability and calm to my life in an area of my life that had not been so stable and calm. And but after a year or so, it's sort of getting a little dull. And but I don't really want to be alone that night. So I call Mike. "Sorry, George, I just don't feel I can come over tonight." It's an eerily quiet and dark night in New York City. And then it's the night that the smell starts to creep uptown. It's a smell of burned glass and metal and wood and plastic and bodies. The next day, Mayor Giuliani tells us to stay home, but I need to move, so I go running in the park. The following day, the office is still closed, but I decide to go in and catch up on some research reports. And I'm sitting there and I'm writing and I'm thinking, why am I here today? If the world is ending like this, why am I doing here? The following day, Friday, everyone's back in the office, and Peggy, our CEO, gathers the senior staff into her conference room. She looks at us solemnly and she says, what are we going to do? Soon we're on a conference call with a guy named Roy. He's a creative from one of the ad agencies we work with in Texas. I have this great idea. We're going to create an ad, and we're going to shoot a whole bunch of people all around the country, all different types of people, and they all look straight at the camera and say, I am an American. Roy hears our silence and he continues, we got to move fast. I've got producers all over the country ready to shoot. We look around the room and we think this could be a really good idea. If you remember, there's a lot of anti-Muslim hatred going on and violence at the time, and the country just needs a lot of healing. Within days, we're just getting phone calls from all different kinds of people. We're getting calls from foundations, from NGOs, from businesses. Everybody wants to do something to contribute. We start having conversations in the office about what it means to be an American. Some of us are saying, well, it's our freedom. Some of us are saying it's the First Amendment of the Constitution. Some people are saying it's the freedom to shop. There's a lot of pressure to get people back shopping because everyone's afraid to go outside. Roy, we have another follow-up call with Roy a couple of days later, and we finish the ad. And the ad is done in 10 days. 10 days. This is a record for the Ad Council. We've never done anything this quickly before. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I think we need to do the research checks. I think maybe we should talk to some people about this. What if, there's no call to action in this ad? What if people are offended by it or they don't understand it? My colleague Priscilla, the head of campaigns, looks at me and she says, George, we don't have time to do the normal checks. We've got to go with our gut on it. I don't know. I'm always nervous about gut feelings. I always feel like you need a couple of extra days here. It's always better to wait, not do anything first rashly, wait a bit. But I know that Priscilla is right, and I know that deep down we have to move forward. So I yield to the group decision, and we go ahead, and the ad is released. The I Am an American campaign is an incredible success. We're getting, compared to all the other ads that we've done in the past, we're getting tons of phone calls and voicemails and emails and letters, people telling us how much this ad means to them, how much it's inspired them. We're doing real public service. We're helping the American people, and I'm part of it. The tragedy teaches you a few things. It teaches you that, you've got to trust your gut feelings. And it teaches you also that anything can happen in a moment. Things just change like that. And with that in mind, I start to realize I've got to focus on the important things in my life. I break up with my boyfriend. A few years later, I actually leave the Ad Council and do my own consulting work, and I help NGOs and foundations. I get used to the uncertainty of not having a regular paycheck. Following this, I meet a German, and I move to Europe. I follow him to Europe. I don't know where we're going to be in 5 years. I don't know what I'm going to be doing in 5 years. But I know that I think differently about safety and security now, and that's okay. Thank you.